the Washington Commanders denied victims and the American people of a full accounting of what transpired at the team for the past 20 years. Today, the committee released new evidence documenting the toxic workplace at the Commanders, details that the NFL had not previously made public. We found that Dan Snyder refused to discipline coaching staff accused of sexual harassment. Instead, according to one executive, he tried to, quote, make the problem go away, end quote. We found that Mr. Snyder approved the firing of a cheerleader for having a relationship with a male team member, but took no action against the male employee. And we found that Mr. Snyder orchestrated a shadow investigation, sending private investigators to the homes of former employees, terrifying them, offering hush money, and compiling a dossier on his accusers. Commissioner Goodell, do you think this is acceptable behavior for the owner of an NFL team? Mr. Goodell.
Chairwoman Maloney, that is exactly why we took this issue so seriously. It's exactly why we engaged an independent investigation with Beth Wilkinson and her firm. She had full access to be able to engage with anyone who
Reclaiming my time, I have very limited time, and thank you for appearing and for your testimony. We don't know how much more information is still out there because the NFL has refused to make the findings of the Wilkinson investigation public. Commissioner Goodell, yes or no, will you commit today to providing this committee the full findings of the NFL's internal investigation while protecting the identities of the confidential witnesses? Mr. Goodell.
We gave a summary report, Madam Chairwoman. The report was broad in its nature, but specific to the fact that the culture at the Washington football team for too long was toxic and incorrect. We made a commitment to protect their identities. We are going to continue to do that and make sure that we protect that for not only this investigation, but also...
Respectfully, Mr. Commissioner, reclaiming my time, because we have limited time. You have claimed you are withholding this information because you are protecting the privacy of witnesses. But many victims, even in this room, and witnesses have publicly stated that they want this information to be released. And the NFL has made other investigations public, and I thank you for that, including the 2014 investigation into the workplace misconduct at the Miami Dolphins. Respectfully, Mr. Commissioner, for full accountability, we must have transparency. Mr. Snyder, of course, has refused to testify today. We thank you for making the Dolphins report public. We'd like to have the Wilkinson's report made public. And I'm asking you, what specific steps will the NFL take to hold Mr. Snyder accountable for refusing to testify before Congress?
Madam Chairwoman, I do not have any responsibility for whether he appears before Congress. That is not my choice. That is his choice.
Let me stop you right here. Mr. Snyder has not been held accountable. His refusal to testify sends a clear message that he is more concerned about protecting himself than coming clean with the American people. If the NFL is unwilling or unable to hold Mr. Snyder accountable, then I am prepared to do so. That is why I am announcing now my intent to issue a subpoena for the testimony of Mr. Snyder for a deposition next week. The committee will not be deterred in its investigation to uncover the truth of workplace misconduct at the Washington Commanders. Finally, I'd like to talk about how we're going to fix this problem, not just expose it, but fix it. Last week, along with many of my colleagues, we introduced 2 bills to ensure that employers like Dan Snyder cannot abuse non-disclosure agreements to silence employees and cannot film their employees and use the films without their consent. Commissioner, do you support the intent of these legislative reforms?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, we've had an opportunity to be able to see your outline of this legislation, or both these legislation and concept. We certainly support it, and we're happy to work with your staff. While I have the microphone, I'd also like to say respectfully that Dan Snyder has been held accountable. As I mentioned in the opening, he faced unprecedented discipline, including financial fines, being removed and away from the team at his request for a period of time, up to the year now already. And secondly, and more importantly, transformation of that organization that has gone on in the last year, which is really important to the employees that are there now. And I hope because of the individuals that came forward in the context of this investigation, they helped us make those changes. And we accepted every one of the workplace recommendations by Beth Wilkinson. And we think that it's had a dramatic impact, as you've seen from the independent and audit that was done just before your hearing back in February that indicated a substantial transformation of the organization, which was our ultimate objective.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I want to thank you for your support of the legislation,
Madam Chair.
which we intend to pass and protect employees, not only at the commanders, but across this nation. I yield back.
Madam Chairman.
And now recognize Ms.
Madam
Potts
Chairman.
for 5 minutes.